Pfizer believes that they have a vaccine. How will that affect the price of gold and silver? Well, let's find out. We have some great news today. So a company called Pfizer, they are a pharmaceutical company, just released the press release that they have a promising vaccine candidate. I'm not saying that it is a vaccine. They don't have a vaccine yet. It is a vaccine candidate for the current pandemic. Now, it hasn't been peer reviewed, so if you understand a little bit about how vaccines work and how most medications work, is that the results produced by the pharmaceutical company has to be reproducible by other independent companies who run the same experiment. If they don't have the same results, then the candidate is not valid. That's how it works. Right now, they've only released their initial results and how to do the experiments. So other companies will try and look and reproduce the results that Pfizer has done over the course of their research. When the news broke, people were ecstatic. They were so excited. And you just have to look at the stock market. I think the Dow Jones gained 5% over the course of one day. And mainly all the recovery stocks. And recovery stocks are things like the travel industry, companies that will do better once the health situation improves and recovers. So they're buying like airplane companies because they think they're down cheap. They're buying carnival stocks. They're buying cruise stocks. Everybody's jumping back into the market. And in order to do that, some of these investors are selling their gold holdings, which have gained significantly since the start of the pandemic. However, I think that if you try to read a bit more and understand what has been produced, you would not jump in so quickly into the recovery stocks. What has been produced is a vaccine candidate. It's not a vaccine. It doesn't mean that it will work. It means that in the limited research that Pfizer did, they did it on, I think, a few thousand candidates, and they produced a 90% positive rate immunity response. I believe that they haven't separated yet the placebo and the non-placebo results. And it'll be quite interesting because if the placebo results, which the placebo is that they give you actually a fake vaccine that doesn't contain anything other than sugar water or salt water, and if that placebo actually has a high positive rating, it might mean that people are simply building up immunity to the pandemic. And that's also a good thing, but that will take a much longer route to generate herd immunity by the pandemic spreading. That's a much longer, that will take much longer and it will hurt a lot more people. But that is also one way the situation could end. Like any type of virus that has happened in the past, people slowly develop immunity. We have it for the flu. We've had some bad cases of the flu, like the Spanish flu, which killed a lot of people. But eventually, people start building immunity. Certain strains die out. And also a lot of people die in the process. It's not a very pleasant situation. But if people read the research and they understand a little bit about the vaccine that Pfizer has proposed, it's actually, I'm not sure it's going to change the situation that much. Because first of all, you have to understand that this vaccine, in order for it to work, you need to first of all get 2 shots, right? You're like, okay, that's not too complicated. 2 shots, you go in once, you go in second time. The second thing is, they say that this vaccine only gives up to 7 months of immunity. So it means that every single year, everybody will need to get 2 shots. Great. What's the next hurdle? Well, the vaccine needs to be kept at least, so on different papers I was reading, it was between, some of them said it was over minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Others were saying that it's minus 90. I think it's somewhere between there. Pfizer said that they were going to store the vaccine on dry ice. Dry ice, I believe, is minus 78 degrees Celsius. So I'm not too sure how much that is in Fahrenheit, but that's around minus 90. It's a little bit more than minus 90. It's around minus 100. But barely. It's barely at minus 100. What is the problem with that? Well, the problem is, imagine this. In order for the vaccine to be able to be delivered into a living person, you need to keep it extremely cold, right? It makes it very difficult to transport. So when you're transporting, it has to be refrigerated. I'm not talking about keeping cold meat refrigeration. I'm talking about deep freeze temperatures, and it has to be transported, and it must never break the chain of refrigeration. And that's really difficult for things that are extremely, extremely cold. Because imagine if you have a truck that's refrigerated and your truck runs out of gas. Suddenly, you've got a problem with your refrigeration unit. That means that, okay, running out of gas is quite rare. There's plenty of gas stations. People can fill up their trucks. But if anything goes wrong with the refrigeration, even if a person just opens the truck to inspect it, imagine you have to cross states and then some state trooper stops like a truck and says, oh, look, this is a fire truck, you can't open it. He might still want to inspect it if he thinks that there's something like, or he might not know that you can't open it, or the truck driver doesn't know that he can't open it. It takes, it's not a very robust type of product that you can easily transport around. Now, in their experiment, they were delivering it from their lab. So inside a lab environment, it's relatively easy to keep it at low temperatures. But moving items at low temperatures around, you can ask any type of logistics expert or transport expert, they'll tell you, moving at that temperature is hard. It's a hurdle. Most likely, if you want to transport it, you'll have to transport it by plane. That's going to limit a large amount of how fast or how much of the vaccine you can distribute, right? The second problem is you need to train people. You'll probably need like 50 nurses for 50 patients, because the second you open the container and you start distributing the vaccine, you have to give shots to every single person almost at the same time. You will need a ton more hospital personnel to distribute the vaccine in mass. It's not just getting it to the hospital, it's that when it reaches the hospital, because the vaccine needs to be kept at such a low temperature, once it's open, it needs to be delivered immediately into the patient for it to be effective. So that means that it's going to take a long time before it actually gets into people. It's going to be difficult to get it into people. It's going to take a long time before they have the distribution chain figured out. And then they'll have the on-site delivery chain, the last leg, inside the hospital. They need to make sure that every single hospital that is going to be administrating the vaccine needs to have trained personnel and also and the right processes to deliver the vaccine. Otherwise, what you could have is just like people injecting patients with ineffective vaccines, right? And this is kind of the point I want to get to. Even though we have a vaccine, it really doesn't matter. Like I said before, I don't think whoever wins the election will matter. I don't think with the current type of vaccines we have, it would matter even if they approved Pfizer's vaccine for the FDA or not. It will not change the current situation, and it will not change it in the short term. It will give people hope. It will change people's financial outlooks on certain type of companies, but those perspectives, like their perspective and the subjective perspective on those companies, those recovery stocks, are misplaced. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're not out of the water yet. I mean, first of all, you have to deliver the vaccine. Now they have a vaccine candidate, it needs to be approved. Then they need to figure out how to deliver it. Once they've delivered it to the places, they need to figure out how to inject it into people within a certain time frame and maintain the chain of preservation and cold. That is very, very hard and will take a lot of resources. Most likely, there will be, if there is a stimulus bill, some of the stimulus will go into creating this distribution chain. But, this is the second part. Remember, the vaccine they've developed, it only works for 7 months. That's 7-month immunity. it means that after 7 months, you can be infected again. So either they're able to give everybody the vaccine, so suddenly we have a massive amount of herd immunity, everybody adopts the vaccine, or they have to continuously administer this vaccine through their cold distribution channel, right, that they have to set up. That will be a continuous cost. It will be a massive drain on, on the companies that are running this, or it could be a huge profit center, but it will not be an easy task. It's not like something that you can just throw money at. There's a lot of things that you can do to throw money at. For example, like changing people's perspectives is something that you can throw money at. It's very easy to change people's perspective. You just have to buy lots of ad space, essentially, and fill up all the ad space people see, and then they will believe that your product is the only one out there if you have the spending power. But to do something like this, which is independent of people, but more dependent on just real life physics, you cannot spend to solve it. I mean, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. That's why a lot of things like this fail. Do I think it will fail? I don't know. But I think that in the short term, people are overly optimistic about recovery stocks, and they have oversold gold and silver. Now I have today I printed the gold chart and the gold price. You can see it's under 1900. It's above 1850, which is a good sign. Do I think it will go lower? I don't know. I mean, it has never gone under 1850 in the recent past few days. I mean, anytime it's been moving down, you can see that there is a very strong resistance level at 1850. If you think about this, just pre-election, right? This is pre-election, and this is post-election. It's been trending somewhat down, but overall, it's pretty much in this band. You know, it's in a band of that it's going sideways. So I think what's happening is people are news trading. People are reacting to different newses, and they're on the fly trying to adjust their portfolios for the most gain after the situation. I'm not playing that. I'm betting that this situation will last at least another 5 years. And when we come out of it, essentially, we will have to have a lot of stimulus. We will have a lot of bankrupt companies in between here and the next 5 years. Will the governments bail out those different companies? I doubt it. They didn't bail out Hertz. Why would they bail out anybody else? Right? Those companies might get restructured. I think people are overly optimistic about how fast we're going to recover. I don't think we're not going to recover. I think eventually we will recover. We'll recover economically. We'll recover in terms of public health. But I think people are overly optimistic, thinking that a vaccine is the end-all, be-all solution. People are too used to having life easy, essentially. We're too used today to having everything so accessible. We cannot wait. Like, imagine this. If 30 years ago, you told somebody, you can get something called Amazon Prime and you can get one-day delivery, or you can choose to not pay that money and get the same thing that you ordered, I don't know, end of the week, 4 days. They're like, okay, well, how much do I have to pay? You have to pay $150 a year for one-day delivery all the time, every year, for the whole year. And they're like, no, I'll just take the cheaper option because I don't need to wait for the next day to get my stuff. And honestly, you don't, for a lot of things that are non-perishable, you don't need to wait till the next day to get your things. Or even if they are perishable, you can plan it out and then you can get it a bit later. We are too used to instantaneous gratification, and we've created a world where everything is instantaneous. People don't want to go through playing hard video games. You know, if you look at video games, this is something I used to do. I used to be a video game developer, and you can't make hard games anymore. People won't play them. If you make a game where people die forever in the game, they will stop playing. Once they die forever, they're like, okay, game over. They'll turn off your game and they'll walk away and play something else where they don't die, and they have infinite tries, and then they can pay money to get even more infinite tries. People will want instant gratification, and people think that the vaccine is instant gratification. I'm not going to spread and say like, no, it won't work. I don't know. It's a vaccine candidate, first of all, so it might work. It may be like, people remember I don't know if you remember, I printed this graph. I printed the gold and the silver graph out here, right? That before this major jump, this big jump here, and also on the gold chart, you can see this big jump here. At this point, Moderna had the same type of vaccine as Pfizer, and it didn't work. Well, it worked, but it had side effects, so it was not FDA approved. When they mean by fast track FDA approval, it doesn't mean that FDA is just going to give them carte blanche and then just approve it. FDA has to go through the results and check if it's viable and if it actually doesn't pose a risk to people, right? It's not going to give you something else on top of it, you having maybe the disease. So what happens when it failed? Well, gold shot up. Do I think that it's going to fail? No. But I think that they're going to hit distribution chain. I don't know actually if it will fail or succeed. I hope it doesn't fail. I hope that we recover faster. But I think that people are over optimistic. And what I'm trying to say is gold and silver at this moment is oversold. What it was my position yesterday, when I saw this, I went out and I bought some gold. I bought gold at spot. It was like some of the coin stores, they were like, "Oh shit, it's going to tank. They have a vaccine. So, let's sell our gold." And then I saw gold on sale. I was like, "Great. That's great news. Gold on sale. I'll buy." And I bought a little bit of gold yesterday. Now, did I go all in? No, I didn't go all in here. I went in a little bit. People said, "Oh no, you shouldn't have bought just like a single." I bought one coin and I bought a platinum. Let me see if I can get this one out. Yep, it's stuck. Anyways, let's see. Actually, I'll take it out. I bought a platinum 1 ounce lunar series coin. I'll put some more silver here. Lunar series platinum coin. When the dip happened, platinum came down, gold came down. I bought this during that time. Well, am I happy? Hell yeah, I'm happy. I mean, it hasn't gone down below that, and the price was really good. And then during the next dip, this one, I mean, I bought a little bit before. I was like, I don't know how it will end up. I bought a little bit before. I bought some gold sovereigns before the jump. So I bought a little bit of, I bought some more gold sovereigns in the middle here when there was like these mini dips. And I think, overall, I bought gold sovereigns during this last dip. I made an order. It was one gold sovereign I bought a Marianne. I bought a Marianne at one of the smaller dips. And it was cheap. They were all cheap. They were they were barely above spot. So were they good buys? I think for me, they were good buys. They let me build up more of my gold stack at a price that I'm happy with. Of course, it's not like 2004 prices, 2000 prices, but you take what you can get. And I think right now, gold, silver, and all the precious metals, they are in a very, very good position. They've been pretty much rock bottom relative to other assets. You're like, yeah, but they gained a lot this year. Yeah, they gained a lot this year, but so did stocks. And you look at how much stocks gain, you're like, it's not really normal for the stock market to gain so much during a downturn. We're at almost back to the highest levels the stock market has ever been, but with 10% less employment, that's a lot. That's irrational. It's there because people are pricing in future expectations. They're expecting that the future means that the stocks will recover. But yeah, they will recover. But how long will they recover back to pre-2019 levels? I don't think it'll be so fast. One of the things I do have insight on are manufactured good export numbers, at least from Switzerland, and manufacturing indices globally. I can tell you that even at the end of 2019, I have some friends who are engineers working in manufacturing. They told me that they're actually getting their times cut. They're getting their hours cut. I'm like, why? They're like, well, because demand for manufactured goods is dropping. This is not before the pandemic. This is in the end of 2019, 2020. And at that point, I was thinking, oh crap, that's not a good indicator. Anytime we have a drop in terms of manufactured goods demands, typically within the next year and a half, we're very likely to see a recession. And I think we were already on the brink of heading towards a recession at the end of 2019, right? But we were not there yet. And I think the pandemic has covered up a lot of the sort of fundamental issues in the economy. And people are like, oh, we crashed because of the pandemic. We crashed because of the pandemic, but also because our economic system is completely over leveraged. I mean, companies are, because before the pandemic, interest rates were so low. It's not just like they're low now. Globally, everywhere around the world, interest rates were so low. In Europe, the interest rate was negative. During the pandemic, it's more negative. It's still negative. Negative is negative. You're not paying any, basically you're borrowing free money, right? It makes no sense. Banks have to lend money. The rates are near zero. I can tell you, I fixed rates for like 10 years, 15 years. You can get like 1.5% interest on mortgages. That's insane. Like, you're listening to this from the US, you're like, what? People can get 1.5% interest rates on mortgages? Yeah, individuals can get mortgage lending at 1% or even less right now in Europe. And they can fix those rates for the next 10, 15 years. It's like, it makes things really, really cheap. And the prices, they haven't gone up so much. What that tells me is possibly people aren't earning enough to qualify for those loans. Because when I went to check out how you qualify for loans, actually the banks don't calculate on a 1% rate. They're calculating on a 7 or 8% rate because they're scared. That's why. They're scared that eventually the rates will go up and they don't want people defaulting on them after the rates go up. So they're only qualifying people who they believe can pay after the rates go up. Why did they think the rates will go up? Well, they thought the rates will have to go up because the economy was overheating. And they were thinking that potentially all the central banks will have to raise rates to cool down the stock market. That's what I think they were thinking, and that's what they were expecting. But, well, they didn't have to do that. The pandemic did it. And then right afterwards, all the central banks are like, yeah, let's just go money, go brrr, and then they start printing money. Great. And then you had everything shoot up into crazy levels. That was completely incomprehensible. Right now, if I look at stocks and people analyzing stocks, nobody goes saying, oh, this company makes money, so we invest in it. It's not even a requirement anymore to make money as a company for people to invest in them. I think that's one of the reasons why Warren Buffett has trouble investing into larger scale companies, because investors today don't care if your company is profitable or not. They just only care if your company's stock value preserves wealth. And that's really dangerous, because it means that people can put money into companies as long as they don't go bankrupt, right? Think about this. They can put money into companies because everybody else agrees that this company's stock, not the company, but the stock, is worth something. And most of those companies also don't pay dividends, and they don't always do share buyback programs. So yeah, it's a really difficult environment for me to assess a lot of these companies, because if I assess it the same way, I think a lot of value investors, they assess the same way. They look at a company, they look at its position in the market, and its relative, like what type of unique technologies it has, what type of product they're selling, and if it has a niche. And then we look at its like earnings, and we look at see if it's profitable or not. And then we're like, okay, if it's profitable and it has good earnings to its price, and then we look at its balance sheet, it's got low debt, great cash flow. You're like, okay, maybe this is a good company to invest in because they generate a lot of cash. They're able to pay dividends. They're able to have healthy earnings. They're in a niche part of the market where there's not a lot of competitors. It's not very easy to enter. This is a good investment. That's how typically a fundamental value investor will look at the market, and they will start slowly buying stocks of that company. But today, you look at some of these companies, you're like, what's the value of this company? Because if I think about it, for example, Tesla, right? They make electrical cars. I think it's quite insane, their valuation. It's really insane because their technology isn't really unique. There's nothing unique about an electrical car. They can have competitors coming left or right. It's really the brand. If I look at Apple, right? Apple doesn't make a unique product. They have so many competitors, but they have high margins. They don't really sell a electronic product. People aren't buying the fundamental product. They're buying the brand. When you buy Apple, you essentially buy a brand. You don't buy. I think it's a similar thing with Tesla. But what I have to say is those companies during an economic downturn, they tend to suffer the most because people will go for the cheapest utility item. That's at least the theory. That's what happened also in previous times. They will go for the cheaper same option. They will not buy the more expensive car during economic hard times. Do I think that there will be more Teslas? I don't know. I think Tesla is kind of a special situation. People are buying it into you can see Tesla two ways. You can see it as an innovative car manufacturer that's going to revolutionize the future of cars, or you can see it as a battery and vehicle manufacturer. And then if you look at it as a battery and vehicle manufacturer, then it is completely overvalued because all battery and vehicle, nobody has the valuations Tesla has. That's the thing that I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, sure. It's behaving kind of Bitcoin-ish. And when I say something behaves Bitcoin-ish, is I think Bitcoin can have value. Bitcoin has utility, but the valuation, the euphoria behind it, it's not healthy. It's not something that you can go in and say this is very normal. So what I think about gold and silver, I think gold and silver is undervalued, or at least they're at their right value because there is very little hype around it. I mean, if you look at the stock market and certain specific tech stocks and certain specific recovery stock, they're getting hype. There's like news cycles around it every single day. People are like, yeah, it's been gaining this much. I made this much money doing this stock, and I bought these options on that stock. I think gold and silver and platinum and the industrial commodity metals, it's not so glamorous. I mean, these things, they're old and it's not really hyped up that you can buy this. If you tell somebody how do you buy gold, most people will not even be able to tell you where they can buy gold. I don't even think most people know that they can buy gold from banks. I see most coin collectors or gold stackers or silver stackers, they're going to local coin shops. That's one way, but most banks, somewhere down in the basement, they do sell gold and silver. So you can also go to your bank and buy these products, physical products, mind you, not the paper products. There's a lot of banks that do sell physical. You can buy in Hong Kong. I was looking at a friend sent me a link of another one of their friends who specializes in alternative investments. And he was listing that you can buy physical gold almost in every single major bank. They have a branch that deals in buying and selling of physical gold. So there you have it. It's very possible to buy physical gold from an institution. It's not like it's not traded. Now, why do people not market gold or silver or platinum? And why do I think that this drop is only temporary? Well, I think that this drop is an emotional reaction. People have seen the vaccine. The underlying fundamental of the vaccine is not easy to distribute, and it doesn't guarantee a long time. For example, if it would guarantee like 2 years of immunity, then I think potentially, yeah, the pandemic's going to end. Because if it guarantees 2 years of immunity, you can vaccinate everybody within those 2 years with this type of this difficult distribution model where they have to keep the vaccine at under 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But in the current model where they have to do it in less than half a year, it's like pretty much 7 months, it's a half a year time span. They have to give people like 2 shots. I think it's like after the first 4 months, you need to get a second shot. So you get 1 shot during the first time, then you get a second shot to get full immunity. And then this whole thing, then 3 more months later, you have to get another first shot. I mean, this is your 7-month period and you need a booster shot at month 3. And then at the end, you're finally immune for another 3 months. It's not going to happen. It's not realistic to distribute a vaccine that has such stringent criteria for distribution. I mean, you can do as much effort as you want, but you need people to deliver it and people to shoot it into people, and they're going to make mistakes, and every single mistake is a huge setback. So I doubt that the vaccine is going to be distributed effectively. If we have a vaccine that is very much more like you only need to keep it at like 0 degrees, yeah, it'll probably get distributed much quicker. And it'll be much easier to preserve. You can keep things colder than 0. It's much easier to go from, for example, 0 to -10 than to go from 0 to -50. If you understand a little bit about how refrigeration technology works, it's quite hard to keep things under -20 with basic refrigeration technology. You need very, very specialized refrigeration technology to go down to like the levels they're talking about. So I've been talking a lot. Do I think that gold and silver is oversold right now? Yeah, it is oversold. If you could have picked some up yesterday, I picked some up yesterday. It was a great day to buy gold and silver. Will there be more buying opportunities before? I think gold and silver is going to go back up when there's go up a lot when there's the second round of fiscal stimulus and the second round of QE. Yeah, I think there should be more buying opportunities. Do I think we're going to see inflation? I don't know if we're going to see inflation this year. I saw like some numbers, at least for Switzerland, what type of inflation numbers we're looking at. We are looking at deflation right now. It's negative. It was, I don't remember exactly how much. I don't know if it was like above 1%. It was somewhere around there. We're looking at 1% deflation in Switzerland. We've been looking at deflation in Switzerland for a long time, and they're still not doing QE. But that's the Swiss. They don't like doing QE. And it's one way to do it. Apparently, economically, they might have to do it sooner or later because a lot of people don't have enough liquidity, but they've kept interest rates at negative at the same time. So they're trying to balance things out. Do I think the Federal Reserve will have to do QE? If there is a plan for fiscal stimulus and they need to fund it, that's what QE would do. They would fund the fiscal stimulus. But the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates low as long as we don't have inflation. And to have inflation, you need to keep the real economy going because the Federal Reserve doesn't measure inflation based upon what the stock market does or asset inflation. They measure it in goods and services you purchase, right? If there is no real inflation in the goods and services, they're not going to increase the price. Right now, the price of goods and services is in free fall because all the businesses are like, yeah, we're racing to the bottom. We just need business. We need clients. We need to buy stuff from us to get the economy restarted. What do I think will happen in the near term? I think there's another thing that I think that might happen in the near term. It's not so positive. I think that the news about the potential vaccine is premature. They should not have released it because what it's going to make people do is it's going to make a lot of people behave recklessly. They'll think that because there is a vaccine, they're saved. They're going to go out and they're going to spend. It's good for the economy, but if the numbers of the pandemic go up because people are overconfident about the ability of science to deliver this, I'm not saying scientifically you cannot deliver this. I'm saying that, or that it won't work. I'm saying that if the criteria are based upon the known parameters, that is, it must be completely refrigerated, it must have specialized units for distribution, and it only lasts 7 months. I mean, by the time they deliver the first batch, and they deliver the second batch, it's going to be 7 months apart. They're nowhere near to reach a point where they can make enough people immune to the virus that it gives you herd immunity so it stops the virus from spreading. It's just not, especially if the virus spreads in an exponential pace and distributing the vaccine is linear. You know, the production of the vaccine is typically a linear production. We produce linearly. We don't have exponential production capacity. We're not. This is the part where, you're in a race against a force of nature, and you're not going to catch up, purely because that's how nature works. It's things spread exponentially, and typically you have limited resources. That's how it works. Do I think gold and silver is going to go up? Yeah, I think we're probably going to see more price increases in gold and silver. It went to I think 820, 850, 860 yesterday. It dropped by $90 in one session, and then suddenly now it's back up a little bit. Some people are saying it's a dead cat bounce, it's going to go down. I think no, actually it's a overreaction. It's a overreaction to the current, to the optimism of recovery. And what might happen is, in a bit, we'll realize that actually recovery is still far off. And the Pfizer vaccine, when is it coming? We don't know. Potentially, it will be like, we'll receive one day in the news, maybe beginning of next year, that Pfizer is distributing the vaccine, but it'll be on a limited scale, and it will be less than what people expected, because the distribution model is not figured out. And then you have analysts come out and say like, but we're good, sooner or later we'll figure it out. And between that and when we actually figure it out, it's going to take time. And time is something that right now, if you're looking at a fast recovery, we don't have. We just don't have time. It's a continuous race against time. And do I think the stimulus that the different governments around the world are going to provide is going to be enough? No, it's not going to be enough, because everybody's sort of debating how much right now, instead of just saying we're going to go for it and then we are going to just pay the bill, to foot the bill. It's not going to happen. So we're going to get stimulus. It's going to be late. It's going to lead to some sort of a little bit of appreciation in the prices of metals. But then they'll realize it's not enough. So they're going to do a second round, third round, a fourth round. In my head, I'm thinking it's not impossible that they do like 10 rounds of stimulus, because there will always be one step behind. It'll never be enough. And then when they do the real final round, they'll go overshoot it. And if they overshoot stimulus, that's probably one of the times when you should cash in on the price of gold and silver. That should be the time when you should exit a little bit. Do I think the long term you should exit? No, in the long term I would keep at least some gold and silver. I think I made a video about my retirement plan on gold and silver, and that's how I stack. I'm a long term buyer of gold and silver, because it's one of the items. Like Warren Buffett says that it doesn't do very much. And I agree. It doesn't do anything. But because it doesn't do anything, and it's pretty much indestructible in nature, you can bury it under the ground and nothing will happen to it. Gold more so than silver in that case. Platinum even more so. You can bury this coin in the ground, in 3,000 years to dig it up, it'll still be this coin. That is precisely why I buy it, because it can't do anything. It can't default, it can't do QE, it can't print money, it cannot do things that people do to make you lose purchasing power. That's essentially it. Does crypto protect you? How does it compare to like newer technologies? Cryptocurrency is a fiat currency. People have a hard time getting their heads around it. They think fiat currency has to be paper. No, fiat currency can be digital. It's just a limited quantity fiat currency. And Bitcoin is essentially you're not getting any coins. It's a public IOU, It's a ledger with written like amounts of who paid who and who owes who what, and then it does a tally of everything. It tells you are owed 3 million Bitcoin. That's from the network. That's what it says. It's not like you actually get a physical token. So people don't understand that, and it only has value because we agreed it has value. So that's what I wanted to say today about gold and silver. I think that right now, if you haven't gotten a little bit of gold and silver, just go in a little bit. Don't go all in, because yes, there is a risk that it keeps dropping. I think it's quite low, so I bought a little bit more gold. I'll still buy a bit more gold, Do I think that we're going to potentially see more rises in the price of gold and silver? I think possibly we might see more rises in the price of gold and silver over the long term. I don't think we're going to see like 10x return. It's not, you should not expect that. You should not expect 10x return for gold and silver. On average, I think a healthy expectation is maybe somewhere between 0 and 5% per year for gold and silver, right? If you cost average everything out. That's a good expectation. You shouldn't think that you can put your life savings into it and suddenly all of a sudden you're going to get 10x returns. If you really want to do that and gamble, you can buy a lottery ticket, or you can join what they call Wall Street bets, and then follow Wall Street bet strategies and then win in stonks. Yeah, so that was the video today. If you have any comments about the price of gold or the vaccine or the current situation with the pandemic, write a comment below. Just say what you like, and I reply to everything unless you are a bot. I will not reply to bots. If you're a bot, you will not get any replies. But if you're a human and you write your opinion, of course I'll reply to it. And also share your knowledge. Say what maybe you know something about like how gold and silver that I've missed. I don't know everything. I don't have the answers to everything. So write a comment, like the video. I really, I know that like I don't have that many viewers, but I do have viewers, and it's really great that you're looking at the videos. Thank you very much for watching. Click the like button it helps me out a lot. Notification and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up with the daily content. Thank you very much. Dave out.